Και τώρα ερχόμαστε στον τρίτο ομιλητή της παρουσίας.
Let's give the floor to the third speaker of this session, Mr. Thodoris Sdroulias. He has studied architecture in Florence and then journalism. He is also involved in the agricultural sector. He publishes the magazine Agrotorama on a quarterly basis with an emphasis on all the activities that revolve around the daily life of the countryside. He will talk today about Lake Karla, which is here in Thessaly. Lake Karla is the thread of life until today. The floor to you for 20 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy that I have met all of you. I would like to thank Thodoris Sdroulias for giving me the opportunity to meet you. This is a very important station in my life because I had to revisit a lot of things. And sometimes it only needs a few moments in order to revisit some firm beliefs. All of us eat. How can we approach food in the best possible way? Most of us forget to thank the Lord because He has given us the opportunity to feed ourselves, Your Eminence, because wine is also food according to the monks in Athos. The beauty of the wine is at the mouth, to taste it, to feel its tannins. So I will try to talk about the Lake Karla. We have this wetland near Volos, and I want to talk about it in order to end up to food. At the first part of my speech, I will do a theoretical analysis, and later on I will show you a video. I have been working on Karla since 1990s. In the beginning, I wanted to do a scientific presentation with figures and charts, all those scientific analysis, to talk about the depth of the water, to show you diagrams, but I decided to put them all aside, and now I want to talk through a narrative, to say a narrative with you, to share a narrative with you. So, we have to get to know our land. Our forefathers watched the earth and then they found the approach. Today, bread has been produced in a very violent way. The Lake Karla has got a narrative that starts from the Neolithic age. The ancient name was Volos, and there was a life there. Through the Neolithic age until today, humans are present in the Lake of Karla. So those people had to find something to food. They were food collectors and hunters. They were living off the fish, of the buffaloes, of the cows, of the sheep, goats, everything around that ecosystem, and of course from the plants that were growing with the conditions of that era. We had a lot of sources for all those things. After the Neolithic age, always around Lake Karla, there were people, settlements developed, and then in the classical antiquity, we have findings that allows us to understand that we had settlements. In the Hellenistic period, the same, we had settlements, and now in the Roman era, we also have documentation and evidence showing that it was an inhabited area, and in the Middle Ages we have Byzantine churches. They still they are standing, such as the Church of Agios Nikolaos, and there is a priest also that performs a liturgy. And right now, after or between the two world wars, the people are building their houses in the lake, inside the lake, so they were basing their economy around food. Without greediness, people had to find food. After the Second World War, there were new aspects of that contemporary life, and the mistakes of our politicians decided that this land should be drained. This was the first political mistake of the 1960s, because they wanted to make it to farming land. Nobody thought that this lake was there forever, and violently human beings were living off that lake and off that ecosystems. So politicians decided to drain the lake and make it into farmland. Most of the people who lived there were simple people, so it was drained, and then we had pictures from ships that stayed there in that dry land. And they tried to grow wheat, cotton, etc. And of course, they never had the expected yield, because the lake had a different purpose. So then we had an ecological instability. The birds went away. We were watching ducks and all kinds of birds to fly above our heads. And then they realized that this endeavor was wrong, was a mistake. And they were trying to use tractors. Most of them were sold because they could not be used. And our brilliant politicians said, okay, in order to bring about the ecological balance, we will reinstate the lake. And they again came into the lake, the drained lake. They excavated and they wanted to pour the water again. Of course, this was good. Some of the birds came back, but it was a political decision. And then nowadays, Karla says, I want my water back. And then Daniel, the extreme weather phenomenon, the floods came, and Karla flooded. Now, when it comes to bread, I will show you a video with a grandmother, an older lady, who is making bread just with 4 ingredients: salt, flour, water and oil. It is made with lime, prepared with lime. It is placed in the oven, in the fire, and then the video will allow you to watch the birds. So I will now show you the video. Kindly show the video. Today we will make bread, traditional bread with 4 ingredients: the flour, and then we will also use some yeast, just a bit of olive oil, a tiny bit, and a pinch of salt. And a little bit of warm water, lukewarm water. And later on, we will mix it all together. And after kneading the dough, we will wrap it around a towel. And we will leave it rest in order to rise. And after the dough will rise, we will place it in the oven. I am pushing the coals aside in order to place the dough to the oven. I want a knife. I have made a hole in order to allow the dough to breathe and rise. It needs 1 hour in the oven in order to be baked properly. I want a wet towel, please. Take care, please, a wet towel to damp the loaf of the bread. And now it is ready. Our bread turned out really good. Let's taste it. I will cut a piece in order to see if it's actually good. Amazing, amazing flavor. Crunchy and tasty. And imagine if we had some cheese, some garlic and some olives. What a feast! Come, Mimis, taste the bread that your wife baked. Isn't it true that I have always been baking very tasty bread for you? We do apologize, the speaker is speaking along with the video and the interpreters cannot listen to the sound properly. We do apologize. Apologies, we cannot interpret by listening to both the music and the speaker.
Των κατοίκων, των απλών ανθρώπων που καλλιεργούσαν τη γη με τα χέρια, με τα κάρα, με όλα αυτά τα πράγματα τα οποία έχει τότε η κοινωνία για να φτάσουν στο τελικό αποτέλεσμα. Το λίγνιζαν, το έκαναν και μετά από όλη αυτή τη διαδικασία εδώ ήταν αποστραγγισμένοι πριν ξεκινήσουν τα έργα. Ήταν μια εικόνα.
Here you can see the lake before it was reinvigorated. Here we can see some animals, goat. The buffaloes are extinct. There are no buffaloes. Here you can see some video before the new work began in order to reinvigorate the lake. You can see heavy machinery that was introduced violently in the lake. 42,000 stramas in order to reinstate that basin that took EU funding as an irrigation project from Brussels. And they also wanted to establish a museum, an ecological museum. And we tried to use sun, the air for that ecological museum in order to organize those materials to build the museum. Unfortunately, this was never realized because it was not accepted. Nevertheless, those machineries, in my opinion, should not be introduced there. Millions of euros were spent. The budget started from 30 million and then it ended up being more than 150 million euros.
Όταν ξεκίνησε εδώ και 15-20 χρόνια,
το έργο θα δώσει μια εντελώς διαφορετική ανάπτυξη σε όλη την ευρύτερη περιοχή της κεντρικής
μας λέγανε ανάπτυξη περιβάλλον,
θα
δώσει προστιθέμενη αξία στον κόσμο, θα δώσει προστιθέμενη αξία στη διατροφική μας αλυσίδα. Δεν έγινε τίποτα.
Το έργο
και μετά από όλα αυτά άνοιξαν οι ουρανοί. Και ο Κύριος είπε, Κάρλα, πάρε αυτό που σου ανήκει. Τι σου ανήκει? Το νερό. Και μετά τον Ντάνιελ σήμερα έρχονται όλοι οι επιστήμονες και...
Today, all the scientists said that we should open up tunnels to introduce new crops, and we keep spending a lot of money. This is when Daniel, the extreme flooding, took place 2 years ago.
Ναι, εντάξει, λίγο τον ήχο. Άσε λίγο τον ήχο και λίγο. Θαύτηκαν ζώα, καταστράφηκαν καλλιέργειες, αλλά τη λίμνη δεν την ένιωσε αυτό. Αυτό ήταν ένας πόνος ανθρώπινος που έχασαν τις περιουσίες.
A lot of animals died, but the lake took back what it was hers, what it belonged to it. Nowadays, right now, we are trying to approach it in a scientific way with scientists that came from the Netherlands in order to tackle all those flooding phenomena. But in my opinion, we should do nothing. We should allow the lake to exist as it is, and of course, why not introduce alternative tourism, since the lake reclaimed what it was its own. We can have fishing tourism, religious tourism, biking tourism, I don't know. Soft approaches on tourism in order to be able to respect that land and that lake. Thank you very much.
Ευχαριστούμε τον κύριο Σδρούλια που μας έδωσε μια απεικόνηση.
Mr. Sdroulias, for talking about the historical course of Lake Karla since the ancient times until today, and he highlighted both the problems, the challenges, and the failures because of human intervention. But on the other hand, he showed some ways out, how this beautiful wetland, this beautiful habitat can be used to the benefit of both man and nature. Are there any comments or questions? Let's first give the floor to the lady. Yes, it's more of a comment that came to my mind thanks to this video with the grandmother that bakes the bread. Norman talked yesterday about time, etc. It's important to introduce the element of time, the factor of time, and also the particular relationship of women with food and preparation of food. Because it's part of the social reproduction, it was the task of women, and in many senses it still is. And this is a reason why now people don't want to spend time on preparing their food, because there is this fast food. I'm talking about the discussion we made yesterday, because now women, thanks to their emancipation, they spend time on other activities. So they choose to set aside social reproduction at the side. So if we want a different relationship with food, men should also learn how to bake bread, children should learn how to do it, or engage in community projects where everybody does this together. The modern life indeed does not allow for the time that our grandmothers and mother had. They were more inside the home. They don't have the they didn't have the TV, they didn't go to a day job. Yes, the situation is different. I remember my grandmother, every time we eat, she used to say, cross yourselves, wash your hands and then cross yourselves. We weren't allowed to eat unless we did prayer. Or my mother used to say, call the priest to bless our food. It is what I said yesterday. When the bell of the church was ringing, something was supposed to happen. All moments in life were connected to the orthodoxy because life conditions were different back then. Today, people don't have the time. Back then, we used to sit around the table and eat. Today, it is a very quick thing, quick consumption, and we don't try to offer this to our children with calmness. It's no longer a ritual as it used to be. Nobody was to stand up from the table. The grandpa used to tell stories about what he done during the war when he was fighting. So the table, we used to cook more in order to have extra, because somebody might pass by the house, that person might be tired. So we always had extra food for people that might stop by. So food was not only for for our family. It was an afternoon. I found two army men in my house. It was my brother that was back then. He was serving in the army. So my mother called them because she thought of her own son being away from her. So she invited these two people that she found on the street because they reminded her of her son who was far away in the army. So the food had a different function back then. It's not an easy thing to go back to that, but it's not that difficult either. Second question by Mr. Durant, I think. Thank you very much. A really nice story.
So moving forward, post-Storm Daniel, do you...
Just a moment to follow the translation, please.
Okay, so is there a movement in the area that is fighting for the reintroduction of indigenous native fish and other species and I guess fauna, plant life in the region in order to maintain, as you say, the reclaimed lake? And what is the alternative? Is the government seeking to remove this lake now too? I just wanted to clarify those two things.
Right now, there is a management body for Lake Karla. It is part of a wider national organization that's responsible for ecosystems. So it's up to the EU and Athens to make the decision. We are making an effort to protect it. When it comes to the fish, last year millions of fish died, and the Pagaseti Gulf was full of dead fish. Last year, even though every year we go to the sea, last year we didn't go to the sea, although the government said that it was clean. No, I didn't believe it was clean. The experts say that these fish died because of asphyxia. I cannot give you the answer because I'm not an ichthyologist. Karla can give life if we manage it correctly through all the aspects that we've detailed throughout these 2 days. It is a part of Greek land that can provide quality to people, because there is animal rearing, quality products. I'm not sure whether we are going to eat this fish in the future, but what is important is to manage it correctly. And so far, this hasn't been the case. Is there any other comment or question?
The local community has no say at all μες στην κυβέρνηση. Μες στην κυβέρνηση το λαός από εκεί πέρα, από το λιμάνι εκεί πέρα που μένουν.
But the government The local community has a voice, has a saying, but it is not heard. I have been producing TV shows for 35 years. More than 40 shows have been dedicated to Lake Karla. I have sent them all to the ministry, but they never hear us. The previous regional administrator received a prize from the EU for promoting Lake Karla. I'm just smiling.
I just smile. Okay. Is there any other question? Kostis, a short question, please, in order to move on with the last speaker. Okay, when during the 60s that project took place, the people who did the training were scientists or not. They were from universities, they knew what they did and they did it for the better. Is this on a political level? Yes. They believed that they were doing it for the common good. I am not doubting the intention, but their knowledge was faulty, at least. The results were negative. So, even today, when we say that science is saying that and the other, we should be a little bit reserved. Science doesn't have all the answers. I'm not just talking about the lake, generally speaking. Science might be wrong, because science has been refuting itself. When I was young, our parents told us again and again that you have to eat meat. Today we believe that a lot of meat is not beneficial. Thank you very much.
So I just want to chime in here. Science is a tool, right? It's a lens, and it can be hijacked by corporate or political interests. It can be wrong, but fallibility is built into science. These scientists were not serving the pursuit of truth here. They were serving the political interests and the political will of whoever dictated to these scientists that they should do it. Right? I mean, I haven't studied this case study, but very often science can be used for the good or for the bad. And I know within religious circles, right, there's a lot of anti-science. Sometimes for precisely the reasons that science doesn't know. What I'm afraid of with what the ethos of αυτό που λες τώρα, of what you're saying now, is we hear that from the climate change deniers, right? And so I'm leery of this, right? I think the problem is either worshiping science, we talked about worshiping nature, that is all the answers. So scientists become arrogant in themselves and failing to see science as a tool we can use for different ways. And I think once we adopt that perspective, right, we can say, hey, those scientists over there have been hijacked by a corporation or by this politician. You know.
This is very acceptable. My question is exactly between our. We think we know everything. We think we know the problem, but many times we don't know it. We just don't know it.
And that's a human problem. That's an ethical problem, not the problem of science. Exactly. About the
Λοιπόν, ευχαριστούμε και για το ξανά το...
Thank you very much, Mr. Sdroulias, once again for his wonderful presentation.